Indie Beacon Radio with hostess Shanalle Sharboneau. Welcome to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. You can send questions for each show on Twitter using the hashtag IndieBeacon. Now sit back and enjoy learning about our guest for this show.
Y'all, my name is Shanalle Sharboneau, your model awarded author, but that's not the important thing. I'm your host tonight and speaking to the very talented author by the name of George Lee. How are you, George?
Just great, thank you.
George Lee Miller. That's a great name. How'd you get that name?
I concocted it from a mixture of my name, which is George, and my father's name. And I added that because he was particularly interested in the Texas history, of course, and the German heritage. And that's the basics of my character and the books that I intend to write and have written so far about Texas.
Yeah, you are the author of two books. One of them is entitled, it's a series, right? So your latest release is Second Chances, and yes, before that is The Forgotten. So it is a continuation of the story, correct?
Yes, it's a series based on a private investigator, and he lives in San Antonio, but he's from a small town just outside west of San Antonio called Fredericksburg, Texas. And it's significant because there's a large German immigrant presence in that area, and that's kind of what they're famous for. And they have a large and exciting Oktoberfest every year, and it's something that plays a part in the latest entry of his book.
Yeah, so for those who are outside of Texas listening to this, every Texan loves Fredericksburg. Every Texan loves the Germans in Fredericksburg. They sure know how to enjoy their life and drink. You can't, and eat a lot of sausage. It's always a good time. So definitely go to Oktoberfest if you can. So, George, this is a pretty great scandalous book. I mean, this is about a character by the name of Nick Fisher, who gets kind of into a sex trafficking ring. But before we kind of go into that exciting subject, who are you? Are you Nick, or what do you do for a living?
I'm actually an English teacher. I teach at the local community college and have for a number of years. But prior to that, I was in the Navy, which gave me the background for the information for my character, Nick Fisher, who was also background in military. And I worked on a ranch, both in Texas that my father ran and out in Idaho and Montana back several years ago. And I got the idea because there were very few of these types of characters coming out of Texas. So I would like to focus this on the history of Texas. Not only that, but also on characters that are local to Central Texas area.
Texas does have a lot of great history, and as we all know, Texans are very, very proud. So that's really cool. I mean, is there, maybe you can't tell me what you did in the Navy because you'll have to shoot me, but is there some truths in Second Chances that you've seen?
Well, I was a Navy corpsman, so my character is not in the Navy, but he was an ex-Marine, and my father was in the Marine Corps, and my brother was also in the Marine Corps. So I associated with the Marine Corps and heard stories about them my whole life. So the segment about his experience in the military is genuine. Things that I have experienced and got to know from my just speaking with military veterans throughout Texas.
Well, please let me be one to thank you and your family for your service. It's those freedoms that we take for granted that you guys fought so viciously for. So thank you for that. So how did George, the English teacher, coming out of the military, what was your first moment when you thought second chances?
I have written for several years in drama. In fact, I produced a play in Austin, Texas at the Frontier Fest 3 years ago. And prior to that, I was a drama teacher and out in Washington State and California. So I produced a lot of drama and began writing for the stage and screen, which is what I intended to do. But when I moved back to Texas, I realized that my true passion was creating characters that had a Texas particular bent. And I wanted to explore also the history of Texas, which is my passion as well. Being a native Texan myself, and have researched the German heritage of Texas and the Texas origins. So I wanted to create a character in the novel form that incorporated many of those aspects.
You bring up Texans and Texas characters, and it really is something else, because even though I don't know who Nick is, which I really want to get to know, I think there's a lot of Texan men that walk around that you have that sense that they are tough and caring, and I guess the overall cowboy. I mean, is Nick a cowboy? Is that him, or is he just a tough guy, or what?
He's both, and I think what I wanted to explore in this series is how those things can both help a person, an individual, and in some sense get them in trouble. And I think my character Nick finds himself in a dilemma between being the stereotypical Texas cowboy and one who also has passions for his history and the other people in his life. The conflicts that he has comes from that very experience that he has of being born on what essentially was the frontier 100 years ago, and having those relationships with country folks and people like from Fredericksburg and the rural areas of Texas.
You bring up something I don't think I've ever thought about before, and that is, Texas men are taught to be very respectful. Not to say just Texas men, but there's yes ma'am and there's no ma'am, but they're still tough and rough, right? So maybe that creates a two personality persona that you've put in Nick that maybe every Texas guy has, and you just didn't know it, right? So that is super interesting on taking that character and making him who he is today. Is Nick kind of like the English teacher that was in the military? Is that him, or?
In a sense, I wanted to give him a background in history, and the way I dealt with it is that after he gets out of the military, he goes to live with his grandfather in Fredericksburg. And in fact, his grandfather is the one who introduces him to his background in Texas history. So as a way to transition from his overseas military experience as a Marine, and in order to get over that aspect, his grandpa suggests that he study history. And I think his advice to Nick is that by studying history, he's able to see that he's not the only, poor guy on the planet who's suffering from these issues that he has from, being in a combat situation in the military.
Wow.
So he is able to use his grandfather's advice And my intent was to use the character's love of history in order to explore Texas history past and how it affects the character today, much like that, that cowboy character. What he does with that pioneer spirit is the idea.
Man, well, we got to end on the note about learning from history and your elders, because I think that is a very good mantra to have in life. But we're going to take a break and continue with this great interview with the author George Lee Miller, author of Second Chances. We'll be back.
I'm Rox Berkey.
And I'm Charles Brakefield. We're award-winning co-authors, Brakefield and Berkey, of the Enigma book series. There are 10 books in the series, with book number 11 planned for release in January 2020.
Each story has a central technology focus ranging from identity theft to cryptocurrency and now AI wars. These adult techno thrillers pit cyber good guys against cyber thugs across the darknet.
In our world, technology is today's weapon of choice. You can enjoy ebook format, paper, or Audible. We want your feedback.
Until the next story, thank you.
Thanks.
Well, hello there, my friends. My name is Randy James, independent voiceover producer in the Dallas, Texas area, available to write and record a 30-second commercial, much like the one you're hearing right now. It's a great way to help increase awareness and exposure to your book title. It's easy to do. Simply call me and we'll brainstorm on a few ideas, and in a few hours, I'll whip something up and send you a digital file ready to use. Remember, call or text me, Randy James, at 214-762-1942.
Hello, I am the author and poet Denise Bryson. I am the author of The Things That Cross My Mind, Love's Reality, both in book and audio form. I am also noted as one of the best poets of 2011. I have 2 new projects coming up. One is the Blinky series, where Blinky tells us all about our coins and our bills for our children. I also have a book coming out called Say Ye. It's quotes from Denise Bryson, just inspirational and that will help you along the way.
Welcome back to Indie Beacon Radio. Don't forget to like us, follow us, or subscribe to one of our many channels. Now, here is your host for today's show.
Okay.
Well, welcome back. My name is Shanalle Sharboneau. I'm your host for this evening, but that's not the cool thing. The cool thing is we are talking to author George Lee Miller, author of Second Chances, a story about a private eye, Nick Fisher, about justice and action-packed thriller. So welcome back, George.
Oh, thank you.
So I'm starting to fall in love with Nick. I don't want to stop talking about Nick. He sounds like a true Texas guy that, and a vet. I'm sure there's a whole layer there that, vets deal with that unless you go through that, you'll never know. And being a Texan, you love this state. So what's the sex trafficking? What is that about? Because you got to have scandalous with the brave, right? So let's put these two together.
Well, just from the headlines I've read recently in Texas, and it's a tragic occurrence that this sex trafficking takes place in many rural areas in Texas and in the larger cities, Houston, San Antonio, and Austin as well. And the problem that I've seen is these young girls get involved with these sex traffickers and are transported to larger cities or out of state, out of country. And my interest was in reading particular stories about the recent example in Houston where a person had set up this hotel business where she was sex trafficking young women from out of the country in different parts of the state. And my interest was in finding out how these young women coped with that and how they got involved, and more, of course, importantly, how they could get out of that situation, and what motivated the profit program that involved these sex trafficking.
Wow. So in a way, I guess understanding those cases, which are truly traumatic and sad, and it would be great for that industry to be dead, literally. But you know, is there ways that people can understand how those girls? I mean, in through Nick being this investigator in sex trafficking, can other parents that worry about their own daughters kind of understand how that happens, or maybe how they can be helped?
I found in my research several resources that are listed in the book that several people are involved in trying to rescue these young girls from their situation. And one I list in the book, a man called Travers, who set up a group in California. And what he had done is he offers free of charge, and this is listed in the book as well in the credits. He offers a service free of charge for anyone, for underage women who are families of underage women who find themselves in this situation. And the great part about his group is they don't charge any money, and they have an infrastructure for where they can develop and find leads to where these women have been taken, the young women. And then they have the resources to back up going and investigating and actually finding and working with, of course, local police forces and the FBI to find the women and bring them home.
Wow.
And I think the interesting part that I try to use in the stories is sometimes that the traffickers themselves have brainwashed the young women into thinking that they're more susceptible to and feel more comfortable with the trafficker once they've been incorporated or used in the situation. And that was kind of the sad aspect. I tried to use it in the story because it's a prominent theme with young women who have been trafficked, that they feel some kind of affection for the person that's trafficked them.
Wow. You don't know the name of that organization off the top of your head, do you?
It is in my.
Okay. Yeah.
I listed in. Yeah.
I was going to say, at the end, we're gonna explain where your book is available, because if anything, the great thing about your book is it does promote that help, and it is scary. I mean, back many decades ago, when I was an impressionable young girl, you worry, you realize how easy it is to convince some girl that this is the way to go, and because it's a hard time for, I think, most young ladies. And worry about my nieces all the time. There's never a moment. And how great for you to really, it sounds like you really got into your research. So you really weren't just writing a story, you were actually putting in factual evidence into what has occurred with Nick Fisher and his desire to discontinue this industry. So that's fantastic. We're gonna have to tell people where to get that. So thank you for that. So why would you write this series? I mean, any writer could write you could write anything about German history, you could write about the military. Why did this morph? Why did Second Chances morph?
I loved the Tony Hillerman series, which is a mystery series about a Navajo policeman. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but what I loved about his mystery series was that Tony Hillerman was able to explain and expand upon the history and the culture of the Navajo Nation, while his main characters were exploring fascinating mystery. And because of that, I had looked for something similar in Texas, and one investigator perhaps that might mix these two elements together of the history of Texas with an exciting thriller series type or mystery. And the ones that I had read didn't necessarily meet my expectations. So I really started with the idea that this is what I would want to read. And I want to read two things. One about Texas history, which being a native Texan, I have researched my own family history from this same area. So I'm familiar with his background, going back to, you know, the first German settlers in that area in Fredericksburg as well. And I wanted to mix that background with, you know, a modern day private investigator thriller that's dealing with the things that are happening today in Texas.
You know, we talk about Nick being a tough guy, but you're kind of tough yourself. I mean, you rode bulls, right?
I rode one bull, and I'm glad that I didn't ride anymore, or I probably wouldn't be. I did rodeo, and I was a roper, though. I team roped way back in the day, but in Idaho, and I worked on a cattle ranch right after I got out of high school. So I left Texas at a young age, much like my character Nick, and went to Idaho to work on a cattle ranch. And I had a great experience with that. I learned how to ride and rope and chase cattle over the mountains. So it was great fun and a great experience.
You know, I had to bring that up because I think so many people really wonder if Texas men are true Texas men, and you just proved that you can't be a Texas man unless you rope some cattle at some point, or you know, go hunting or fishing big time or something like that. So thank you for being a great representation of Texas. But we are going to be back. We are talking to the amazing Texan author, George Lee Miller, writer of Second Chances. We'll be back.
Hi, I'm Jerry Reedy, author of the book Heat in the Vegas Night. The book is a true inside story of a group of sophisticated blackjack players that take large sums of money from Las Vegas, led by one man, the boss, who trained a group of ex-college athletes from the Pacific Northwest to use a mirror to see the dealer's hole card in blackjack. The true story, stranger than fiction, is about casino espionage, teamwork, guts and determination, and courage. Find the book at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Target.
Thank you for watching or listening to Indie Beacon Radio. Our sponsor, IndieLector.store, is the only bookstore that pays authors their fair share for book sales. Help authors to succeed and enjoy a great book by supporting them at IndieLector.store. Enjoy a 10% discount with coupon code SHOPPER20 at IndieLector.store. Coupon valid until December 31st, 2020. That's IndieLector.store, coupon code SHOPPER20.
What started as a love letter to her son has become an international love letter for all parents to their children. Now you can read acclaimed author Shanalle Sharboneau's story to your children. When her son was very sick, she calmed him by singing her own song to him. She turned that song into the book My Mama Loves Me, I'm Her Little Boy. She wrote 3 more magical books for all parents and kids 6 and under. Available at Indie Lector, Amazon, and all local and national outlets.
Authors Marketing Guild is a membership-owned organization designed to help authors succeed and learn how to better market and sell themselves and their books. Join us at authorsmarketingguild.com and receive so many benefits you'll wonder why you didn't join sooner. That's authorsmarketingguild.com.
Welcome back to Indie Beacon Radio. Don't forget to like us, follow us, or subscribe to one of our many channels. Now, here is your host for today's show.
Well, welcome back. My name is Shanalle Sharboneau, and I'm talking to the great author George Lee Miller. Welcome back, George.
Thank you.
So we're talking about the rigorous skill set you have to acquire to be a Texas tough guy, huh?
That's right.
Which does create a really great character. Hey, speaking of something that we have to mention, you have a Labrador by the name of Max, right?
I do.
Oh, he's beautiful. Brown lab, huh?
Yeah. And because of that, he features in both stories, actually.
Oh, that's great.
First in the series, my character has a chocolate lab who assists him on and in his investigation. So I was very proud of that, and I read the passage out loud to my Labrador Retriever, and he liked it very much. I don't want to give away too much, but he meets with he doesn't fare well in the book. So I promised him that he would return as a younger character. So in book 3, I'm bringing back another Labrador.
That's awesome. You know, all dogs are fantastic. They all have instincts, but being raised with labs myself since literally birth on, they have some really bizarre, I mean, there's a reason why policemen have these guys. I mean, they just know things that I'm not sure how they do. So to know that they can, you know, sniff out people and drugs and all that other stuff, and to put them in second chances, I'm all for it. But if he died, I'm going to skip that chapter. I can't do it. I just can't. So where are your books available? Where can people get this great story?
Great. From Amazon.com, of course. You can find both of them there. My website, GeorgeLeeMiller.com. And you can see all of the different places, Colby Books and Barnes & Noble also.
That's great. So there's you don't have to search to get this thing. And congrats. I mean, your ratings are just phenomenal. I mean, that says something about your story. I mean, this is all 5-star all the way down.
I've had some good reviews and been really pleased with that. Of course, that's the thing that keeps you going to the next series, is that you have connected with people outside, of course, of your family and friends.
Right. Well, I haven't even picked up a book, and I want to know who Nick is, so we're going to talk about that later. But so what's next? I mean, I'm here in book 3, so I got to get caught up.
I'm already into book 3. It's called The Last Rodeo, and it's all about Nick Fisher's association with a young veteran who is in the rodeo in San Antonio. So I got the idea from going to the rodeo. Of course, I love to go to the rodeo. San Antonio Rodeos is one of the best in Texas, and it's a month-long event in February. And I got the idea while attending the rodeo and thinking that my lead character would probably not miss the rodeo. So he meets a young veteran prior to the rodeo who is riding. He's a bronc rider. And that's the start of the adventure.
Wow, that's great. And yeah, for those who have never been to a rodeo, I mean, it's quite a shindig. People get all dressed up. There's black tie affairs and hats and, you know, belt buckles worth a car payment or two. So it's really great. So wonderful. So when is that third book coming out? Do you have an approximation?
That's a good question. I am targeting September.
That's great. But this book, The Second Chances, that just came out here in March, and you're already getting into it.
March.
Yeah, March 2020, and you're really high reviews and everything. That's really great. Well, George, man, thank you. Thank you for being a great representation and creating Nick so others can know who we live with down here in the South. And wish you all the luck in the world and keep Nick going. We've got to find out what he's going to do next.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. We are talking to the great author of George Lee Miller, author of Second Chances. Y'all have a good night and stay safe.
Thank you for listening to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. To learn more about Indie Beacon services, to be a guest on the show, or to advertise on our show, please visit our website.
Indie Beacon Radio with hostess Shanalle Sharboneau.
Indie Beacon Radio is produced by B. Allen Bourgeois for Authors Marketing Guild LLC, copyright 2020. Voiceover by Randy James, Lydia Bello, and B. Allen Bourgeois. To be a sponsor of the show or for more information, please email us at info@authorsmarketingguild.com. To be interviewed for the show, please complete the form at radio.authorsmarketingguild.com. Music Always Rejoice by Ramcord